Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions on a Tuesday for PPST. Today is a roundtable. We're going to talk about PPC. We haven't done any chats for recently. Yelena's back. Lazar is back also. And I'd like to welcome Kevin to the show. Today we're going to talk about manually managing your campaigns versus software algorithms, AI, and all that kind of stuff, and have a little debate there, friendly debate. I know, Yelena, you do not use software, is that right? Or you only partially use software?
Only when the client insists that we combine our management services with some kind of software that they are used to use, mostly for purposes of reporting, because they are looking at certain reports that they can see only in these
tools.
Because
Sorry, go.
Sure.
Yeah, the idea is to get opposing views, to give the audience an understanding where they want to pick and choose, right? This isn't like a war zone or anything like that. What we're trying to do is have intelligent conversations about, what are the downsides? What are the upsides? And what, if you are using software or not using software, what are the things that people should be doing to maximize that process, whether it's manual or it's automated? I'm going to share to the groups. Lazar, do you want to kick off and give an introduction on yourself?
Yeah, of course. My name is Lazar, and I'm the owner of Sellers Alley PPC agency dedicated only to Amazon sellers. Basically that's the shortest way how to do it. And I'm a huge fan of manual optimization. Also, we are probably going to talk a lot about like different stuff when it comes to comparing apps and softwares versus manual work. Like I'm a huge fan of both. So let's see what's going to happen.
Superb. Yelena, do you want to give an introduction to you?
Yes, I'm Yelena, Business Development Manager at Amazonia PPC, which is an agency dedicated to PPC campaign management and listing optimization services for Amazon sellers. And my viewpoint is very similar to Lazar's in terms of manual versus tool and automation. I'm pretty happy to share my views on why.
Excellent. This is really good. Okay, Kevin, welcome to the show. This is your debut, isn't it? So congratulate him for your first appearance on the show. Don't be shy. We need to go in deep and talk about this subject, but give a little bit of background on yourself.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited to be on the show. So my name is Kevin Michael. I'm head of product here at Perpetua. Perpetua is a growth optimization platform. It's a software tool for people who are looking to grow on Amazon. And it's funny, I think I might agree with everyone. I'm a big fan of manual optimization. And I know I'm not supposed to be, maybe I'm supposed to be the software guy, but, I really believe in the power of humans plus technology, humans plus software. So I think I'll agree with you guys more than maybe you would have expected. But believe that software can really empower people to do more than they're able to do on their own. But software has its limitations, and humans need to be involved in the process. That's kind of my take on it.
Okay, cool. Right, that's done then. Shall I sign off now? No, I'm joking. Right, Yelena, do you want to lay out your case? Talk to me, the pet hates about software, where you think they really fall over. It's important. So we want to go from one end of the spectrum to another. So explain a bit about what you do, and let's talk about some of the pet hates that you have. And, we hear these conversations saying, oh yeah, I use this software and it blew up an account and da-da-da. There's many conversations, and this is why there's part of the debate. So I'll shut up now and let you speak.
I think it's really great that we have Kevin on board today, or someone that represents software from that point of view. One of the main things that I like about Perpetua is that it's trying to overcome that main gap from that most of other tools don't really have, which is a creative process. They cover the video ads, as far as I understand. And that's the first step towards full automation of PPC, which is the end game. That's how I see it. In a couple of years, when all these tools that now started getting improved, I think that they're eventually going to win. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I don't know. That's the main gap that we keep seeing in using tools with PPC and automating PPC. The other part that really, where they really fall behind is some kind of custom reporting. Almost always with clients that we work with, who use some kind of software, they will ask from us custom reporting that we either have to create manually or some specific metrics that they are important to them. Most of them are just not covered through reporting. So, and there are great tools like, for example, Seller Board that we recommend a lot to our clients that offer a much more complete reporting and understanding of their numbers in general, not just PPC. PPC is just one part of that, and understanding how PPC attributes to the whole success of their whole total revenue and all of that. And the other part where I see software, when some of the people from the software industry ask me what we would like to see or improve in their tools, is I guess some kind of connection with inventory management, connected with PPC, because that's what's become incrementally important, especially in the past 6 months.
You can, just to let you know, we do that at the agency, because you've got the advertising API and MWS, and where we built our tech, that is all locked in. So it is out there, but maybe there's not a broad spread in terms of software that offers and operates that.
Well, I'm not sure which one you're using. You're using the in-house one built, right?
Ellis develops and the team develop all of our tech. There's nothing that's off the shelf or third party. Everything's dedicated what we build indoors.
And you're not selling the software. You're using it.
No. It's just agency. It's like white glove agency, but it's we spend a lot of time and focus in and around R&D, like a software company, but we've got less than 30 clients, but we're ultra focused on doing that. So it's like a hybrid business, if you like.
Yeah, that's as good as it gets, in my opinion. Like if I could create a perfect software, it would be something that can integrate PPC bidding strategies with the level of stock and inventory. And that's the kind of thing that could actually win in the upcoming months and years, because it's become more than obvious that inventory management is going to be more tricky than ever. And it's hard to predict the demand. I'm talking about the US market, not so much in Europe at the moment, but in US, we're seeing less demand in some of the accounts that are strictly related to luxury or something that's additional, that's not super essential, simply because some people lost jobs, some people lost benefits, and it's affecting the whole demand side, and we have to adapt to that new situation on one hand, and on the other hand, they have to kind of like forecast, do some kind of forecast for future orders from their suppliers, which is incredibly difficult. And many times they will give us, our clients will send us specific SKU that we need to pay attention to and what kind of PPC strategy to apply to it. And it's a process that becomes very repetitive. So there is opportunity to create a software that will cover that gap, that will fill that gap. So that's some of the main. You asked me what are the things that could be.
So what we're going to do, we'll do part of this conversation, the real problems with software to get around, that you need eyes on it, etc., etc. So I'll move to the design in a moment. But Kevin, if I bring you in here, like you've got a big user base. Talk me through some of the problems that people generally, not just your software, but generally have with software and their perceptions of those, because you're going to see patterns, aren't you? That common thing where people say, yeah, I use a software, but it blew up my account. But it doesn't. It's what the metrics that the people are setting. It's only what you program, you put in, and your understanding of the interface is what's happening. And it's if you've got your eyes on it. So talk me through a lot of the common things you see that people, when they're moving from manual to software, and the problems that they run into.
Yeah, totally. Right at the top of my head, I'd say there's 3 big things that come up. Maybe more will come up as we start talking. But I think the first big mistake people make when they're using software is they treat it like set it and forget it. It's a magical black box. People will come to us in sales conversations and be like, oh, is your algorithm better than this software or that software? And it's a matter of as if that the software is magic. I think the first thing that I always tell clients is, software is not magic, right? It's not. So people who set it and forget it, meaning they'll launch their campaigns and they will never, they'll check back in a month from now or 2 months from now and be like, oh my gosh, why is my performance like this? I think there's still a lot of tweaking that's involved, right? Maybe you're not tweaking every single keyword, every single bid price, every hour, but there's definitely a lot of input that's required in order to use software effectively. So the first problem I see is people don't put enough effort into using software. The second big problem that I think exists with software in general, maybe this is taking a step back from the user's perspective, from my perspective, is the space is not that old, right? There have only really been software tools for a few years, and so everyone's still there has not, I wouldn't say there's been a ton of innovation in the space relative to at least our team. A lot of us come from, Google, Microsoft, Apple, tons of companies like that. And when we enter this space and we look at a lot of the kind of the software landscape, there hasn't been a ton of innovation. And I would say even for us, we're a young company. We've only been building our software for less than 3 years. And, the vision we have for 3 years from now is far from what we have today. But one of the big problems is most of the software is one size fits all, right? It's like the same levers, the same inputs for a variety of different use cases, right? Some people are looking to optimize for profit. Some people are looking to pace a fixed monthly budget that's been approved by, their finance department. Some people are looking to, grow revenue at all costs, within some budget. Anyways, there's a whole bunch of different use cases. And also every category is different, right? The volume of data that they have, their competitive positioning in the market is different. And with all of this difference in complexity, I think a lot of the software is built like one size fits all, right? It's like, okay, here's the best practices for the average case. Let's just like everyone should do the same thing, which, there are best practices for sure, but I don't think that every customer and every customer use case is fit for the right strategy. So those are kind of some of the big problems that I see. I think I only mentioned two, but the other thing that I would mention is when it comes to this is a problem I would say we had maybe a year ago that we've since innovated ourselves out of, and I think a lot of the other tools are still seeing everyone's looking at the same data, right? It's clicks, click-through rate, conversion rate. It's the same. It's the search term report, right? It's the one report. Everyone's looking at the same thing, and they limit their optimization to that data. And I think that is a big problem because when it comes to, putting together the right strategy, the right set of optimizations, you need to look at a whole slew of data that's not even available via the APIs, right? You mentioned inventory data. There's total sales data. There's data from like share of voice, right? From your organic ranking. There's a whole bunch of different pieces of data that need to be integrated into the optimization process.
And there's brand analytics as well. So what you're saying, I called it business intelligence data and marketing. They're two macro broads. And then you start to niche down. And like you said, if you're using the advertising API and MWS, you can start to bring those together. And then in some of our calls, it's business decisions as well. Which is sign off budgets and stuff.
Yeah, and so I know we're talking about the problems with software, so I don't want to go into hey, here's the cool stuff that we've done, but it's just it's so important to integrate all of this data, right? There's data from so many different sources. It's so important to integrate that, and most software tools don't do that, and so people really struggle with that. Perpetua is starting to do it, but anyways, coming back, the third problem that I was going to mention was, and it's the same thing you mentioned. I think I would call it a class of problems around portfolio optimization. That's maybe the words that I'm using. I don't know if it's the right words, but it's when you have, like you said, 1,000 SKUs, hundreds of campaigns, and more importantly, if you are fully activated across sponsored brands video, sponsored display, DSP, when you're activated across that much complexity, usually most of the software in the market is built to kind of optimize individual campaigns, not maybe to optimize an entire account. Right. And so one of the big problems that users have is trying to basically balance budgets across all of these campaigns, across all of these channels, so that their aggregate result is perfect. And that's definitely a big challenge that I see with a lot of people using software.
I think we'll go to Lazar next, but you just made a good point there. I think the other problem with software as well is having a strong enough API. I know they go into beta, but you'll find is that people on agencies that don't do any, who don't think about optimization, and they're doing all manual management, when something new comes out, they're fast to test it. Like, headline search and everything else, the APIs were weak for a period of time, So I think the problem with like with our rollouts, although we're innovating certain areas, when Amazon lays out new products, we are slower because we're always thinking about how much manual labor is involved here. How strong is the API? I'm saying this from a non-technical point of view. I'm not a coder. So that is a disadvantage. And I always say that to people. But once you have got the access, then you steam ahead. So it's like you kind of come from behind, and then once there's a stable API there, then you can really rocket ahead. So those guys that were doing this stuff manually, they're ahead of the curve there. But then once you start be able to integrate with your own tech, that's when we win, or others will win. Do you know what I mean? So
totally. And Danny, this is the other problem that I see. And again, I like Amazon has seen a significant amount of volume go through their API, right? In terms of talking about like billions of dollars in advertising spend that has been managed by programmatic partners over the last couple of years. And so what we've seen and everyone's seen is that Amazon has really staffed up their technology teams, right? And the pace at which they're releasing new APIs is astounding, right? And one of the problems that I think it currently exists, and that we hear from a lot of customers that come to Perpetua, is like, oh man, my software provider is so behind. They're not activating on sponsored display. They're not taking advantage of new to brand metrics when those came out. Like the rate of innovation at Amazon is so large. And I think one of the big problems is that players are really, even we're honestly, like players are struggling to invest enough to actually build on top of those APIs and take advantage of them. It's like there's so much data and so many APIs available. And so when there are players in the space that have, anyways, all I'm trying to say is that, unless you're investing millions of dollars in an engineering team every year to take advantage of all of this data, it's really tough. And I would say there's a lot of players in this space, but a lot of them are getting stale because they just can't keep up with everything that Amazon's releasing. And I'd say one of the complaints that we hear from a lot of people is, hey, my software just isn't taking advantage of everything, right? It does sponsored products only, right? Yeah. It doesn't do sponsored brands video. It doesn't do this. And when they're coming from that perspective, they're falling behind, right? Because their competitors are taking advantage of every single ad unit, and they're going to fall behind. So that's, I think, another challenge for sure.
Okay. Lazar, we've been on 17 minutes and we're not talking to you properly yet. Lay out your case,
no
please.
Worries.
Sorry. Yeah.
So basically my perspective is this. You can do PPC optimization through user interface, which is probably the worst way how to do it because it's time consuming. If you have a lot of ASINs, if you have a lot of campaigns, ad groups, keywords, you're probably going to spend ages working there and you're not going to do it in the right way, especially if you want to do, let's say, day parting, if you want to do frequent bidding optimization, if you want to do frequent search term reports and keyword harvesting, is going to take ages, basically, how to do it. Faster way how to do it is basically to do bulk optimization, which is basically taking down, like downloading full account. And I definitely recommend downloading account once a week to have it like backed up, just in case something happens wrong, to have a backup of your full account. On the other hand, what is really good about bulk optimization, you can filter everything in literally whichever way you want to do, and to re-upload it back. Negative side of it is that you cannot do it all day long. Like you cannot do keyword harvesting like literally right away. And that's kind of negative thing. What we as an agency started working doing is basically doing it through bulk files, but over the time we developed our own add-on for Chrome that is scraping data from Amazon and taking data from there.
Scraping data from Amazon.
Just the numbers.
Grabbing
it's just
some
like
information that which is in terms of service.
Yeah, it's nothing like against terms of service or anything.
Yeah, I'm joking. So, it's no different. Yeah, I'm joking. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so and that's something that we do just so we don't spend a lot of time doing a lot of manual work, copy pasting information and so on. On the other hand, there are a lot of softwares and many tools that we try to compete against. Some of them are doing the same as our tool. Other ones are rule-based, and third ones are AI tools. And honestly, I'm not really believing into AI tools. I'm in PPC space for around 10 years now, and I've been working with some AI tools in the past that were, and we used around like $5 million a month in ad spend just to test like over the time. And we didn't really see all the positive and negative sides. Like there is a bunch of stuff that those tools are not tracking, just like Jelena mentioned, like inventory levels, some strategies, because maybe you're doing some product launches or you're doing something else. On the other hand, those tools are rarely tracking keyword rank, organic keyword ranking, comparing to PPC optimization and a whole bunch of different stuff. There are tools that are really good when it comes to
just quickly, Lazar, you know,
Mm-hmm.
with tracking rankings and stuff, that's a form of scraping, and that's against terms of service. So it makes it very difficult to do that. If you're a software company, right, and you've got an API license, and you're there scraping data off Amazon, and someone grasses you up, you could get kicked off the platform. It's very careful. You have to be very careful with that. But yeah,
it's super sensitive, I know, but there are a lot of tools that are tracking keyword ranking. Basically, you can do it through Helium 10. You can do it like, I'm not really sure about Perpetua if you guys can do it, but a lot of tools are like, some of them are doing it, but they're not comparing that information with their PPC performance. That's the main issue there. Those AIs are having a problem because they need to some time to learn. And after that, what they learn from, they're then implementing results and implementing for the future period. So if you have like Prime Day, if you have Cyber Monday, if you have Black Friday, or whichever day, you're going to learn from the previous time, and you're going to implement it during those days, and you're going to screw everything up. After those days, the algorithm is going to learn and going to say, oh, we did it wrongly here, we're going to do it like this way after those dates. And the software is going to work in a manner that is going to optimize just like it's Black Friday every other day, and it's not. So that's one of the main issues there, and that's one of the problems that is going on there. So you definitely don't want that. Other problem that I find with software is basically a lot of softwares are really good at what they're built for, but they're not built for everything.
Yeah.
And you definitely want to do different stuff. Just as you mentioned, like at the beginning, it's a huge advantage for people that are doing manual optimization when something new rolls out. But after that, software takes place, and because it can do repetitive tasks insanely fast and like unlimited amount of times. But the moment algorithm changes or there is a new change, there's a need for a software to update. And usually those updates are not lasting for like 1 hour or something. It needs a couple of weeks for developer team to optimize that software until it works back like in a way it should work. So hybrid method is something that I find to be the best way how to do it, to have a human being thinking and to have a software to do manual hard work, and to have human that know what they're doing, like they're good with PPC, to think and to optimize and to build and branch out the account, while you have software to do manual work in the background to help with something that is boring or repetitive and is time consuming, basically.
Sounds good. Makes total sense. I'll give you my perspective on it. And again, we have to talk about biases here, right? So Jelena, she doesn't use, say, software. Like you use partial software. Kevin's software background, we use software. I would stand and say now is that we don't just leave it running on the software. Going back to your point, each of our accounts have adjustments on the algorithms. If someone's selling, high velocity products versus someone 1,000 SKUs they've got and they're selling every other day, you can't apply the same metrics to it. It doesn't make sense. It needs fine tuning. The other thing is we do a lot of documentation. So the software is for the grunt work. The intelligence work is done by the humans. You can't get software, from my understanding, to go and look at the search results pages on Amazon to diagnose a problem that you may have. they don't have that brain to break that down laterally and understand that. That is such a key part that people don't realize, is when it comes to problem solving, they can solve certain things, but stuff like that cannot be replaced. So when you've got working at that scale, it's very difficult to grow as well if you're trying to manage 1,000 SKUs. If you're going in and doing the grunt work, you're not spending time on the intelligence work. Does it make sense? So I think sometimes the problems with scale as well, if you're trying to grow as an agency, can you imagine, like, we talk about sometimes that software can run away and burn your budgets and all this kind of thing. Obviously, you've programmed it yourself, so it will burn what it's meant to burn, unless there's a malfunction, which is often quite rare. But can you imagine that there's also the danger side of manual management? If you've got an agency and you've got loads of clients and you're problem solving all these accounts and you don't get to that client account that week or that day, and then what happens, they get to the end of the month. So sometimes it could get to the stage, if you're oversubscribed, you've got no eyeballs on these accounts for a period of time because you're putting out fires on other accounts. So what it goes back to me is about the efficiency of being able to see where the problems are, having algorithms that are programmed so you can see that flags up the issues with what's going on with the accounts. So we always got eyes on accounts every day. And we've got the team, they're documenting, making adjustments. And so I think it's getting the best of those two things together, because it's really important, but it's a finite balance to manage. Yeah. So, and this is something that we as agency owners as well, we've always got to be careful of. It's all well and good signing and scaling, but you need to look after these customers and you need to deliver results for them. But that sometimes becomes harder, because if you've got a series of accounts, and look at, say, let's go back to COVID, when that week hit and things go sideways, everyone's like, can we look under the hood? My sales have gone down, There's so many things to do, and it depends on the size of your team. So I go back to the point is that software's for grunt work. Intelligence work is what you do in terms of the optimization. That's my take anyway.
Yeah, I think, Danny, I agree with that, but I wouldn't underestimate like where software is heading. I think is more what I would say, right? Like in the sense that I don't buy, like, to your point, Lazar, I don't think that we're building like an all-intelligent AI, that replaces a PPC manager or replaces, a brand owner or something like that. That's we're building Perpetua, we're one of the leaders in this space, and that's not how we think about it. We don't think about replacing human beings. I think we think of, and some of you might have heard this analogy before, but I think we're building engines for Formula One, right? That's kind of like, but we need drivers. We're not replacing drivers, right?
Yeah.
So we're building the most powerful engine in the industry. That's what we're investing millions of dollars a year in our team to build the best tool in the space, but we need drivers. And if I was to flip it around and say, like, what is the problem with humans that use software, right? It's like people don't invest in the training to learn the tool that they're using, right? You guys cited a lot of cases where people are like, oh man, I turned on this tool and it blew it up, right? It's the same thing I said earlier. It's like people think that software is magic. When you're a Formula One driver in a race, right? Before you even get on the track, you need to go through a lot of training, right? If you're going to become
if you take it back a step, if you want to learn to drive on the road, you're going to put in at least 30 to 50 hours minimum before you can pass your test.
Exactly. And so that's the point, is you have to put the time in, right? Training and learning your tool. And you can't, like, if you go out without any training and you crash your car, you can't blame the engine. You can't blame the car, right? That's exactly the thing that I would say. The other thing that I would say is that I think people, like, in this analogy, it's funny because our CEO, Roscoe, who's, again, very accomplished individual, if you guys haven't heard his background, and growing that, like, I was having this conversation with him, and he was saying, like, Roscoe's long self-driving race cars will beat any Formula One driver in the long run, but it's going to take years, right? It's going to take many years because there's a ton of complexity. And it's exactly the type of thing that you said, Danny, the intelligence work that you described. It's really hard for computers to do. It's a very complex set of problems.
Yeah.
We are long, like, again, no one believed 10 years ago that like computers would be able to recognize individual faces in software and images. It happens today. It's actually crazy, right? Technology is progressing at a rate that's incredible. And so what was possible 5 years ago, what was impossible 5 years ago is possible today. And I'd say in the PPC space too, a lot of the intelligence work that you're talking about is going to be possible via software 5 years from now, but not all of it at this point. There's always going to be newer, more interesting, more strategic problems, and there's always going to be need for human oversight. One of the things I was going to say is that, like things that like you guys all mentioned, computers are good at math, they're good at computation, they're good at optimization problems. What they're really bad at is taking risks, right? They can say, okay, what's the probability of something? But are they going to be able to know that, okay, if I lose $100,000 on this number one keyword, suddenly I'm going to like put my competitors out of business and then I'll start being able to sell profitably? The computer could never, ever make that call, right? They're bad at those types of things. So anyways, I would say is like, we're long self-driving. It's going to take a long time. The intelligence work, it's more like everything's evolving. The software's evolving and the human beings have to evolve as well. And the only other question that I throw out there is like people who are building their own engines, right? Like if every Formula One team was building all their technology from scratch versus, relying on Rolls-Royce or Boeing or whatever to build their engines, like I would say we're long specialization. We're long a large team of engineers that are building the best tool in the space, and we need to recruit as many, talented drivers as possible. But I do wonder how, people that are building, that are like smaller teams, I do wonder how they're going to be able to keep up in the long run, which is why I would say like, I don't know. It's tough.
Guys, you want to pitch in here? You got anything you want to add here, Yelena? With me and Kevin's gone off on our little rant, so I want you to come in and say your piece as well.
Yeah. You mentioned that one of the common mistakes that not mistakes, but one of the most common problems that clients face when they're hiring an agency is that their accounts aren't given enough attention. That's something I 100% agree on, and we have adapted our system so that we accept only as much work as we can handle with quality, and just not fall into the trap of accepting more work just because we can.
Yeah.
And so there are systems that you could implement, just daily entering the accounts, checking if everything is okay, just like feeling the pulse of the account, if it's going in the right direction, noticing some trends that are repeating day after day. And I also liked Kevin's opinion of how technology is evolving. I 100% agree. I think that just like 5 years from now, things are going to change drastically. And I do believe in AI. It's something that I can see coming 100%. So we'll see how that reflects on PPC, especially on the creative side. We'll see how hard some of the software developers can work on overcoming obstacle of creating creative display ads and video ads and all of that side of advertising. That's super important.
But that's where your advantage is. As soon as something comes out, boom, you're testing that day. We could do it if we wanted to, but it means doing it all manually, and you have to be disciplined as a company. It's like, do we invest now or do we wait, steady API, and then gun it, hit the ground running, and catch up on that lost ground?
I'm always in favor of that conservative approach. I don't know why. Maybe I like to be in the safe zone. It's just me, but yeah.
It makes sense. Lazar, do you want to pitch in here?
Yeah, of course. Well, one of the things there that can be problematic, and it's something that Amazon makes as a problem. Like, I talked to a couple of owners of software, and what I heard, for example, what they tested APIs, and if they use from the same account two APIs, they would sometimes get different results, and that's something that can worry you a lot. Because I remember last year there were huge discrepancies in numbers, and imagine optimizing your account by knowing wrong numbers just because API had a problem, and that problem lasted for like 30 days. That's a lot.
Yeah,
and that's one of the huge disadvantages.
Yeah, you have to reconcile. You have to have a backup procedure to reconcile those issues. That incident you said for 30 days it's been a bit of a one-off. That's not a regular incident. There will be a day or two, then it gets reconciled. But generally, that was a long run. But yeah, that I think, and it could happen again. Who knows? That is the risk. Does that make sense? Because nothing is perfect. You can't find, I think it's African Bambata. I'm showing my age here. African Bambata says, searching for the perfect beat. There isn't the perfect beat, but you carry on searching. Do you see what I mean? I've got some hellos and questions here. Let me just go through these. Yarrow says, let the mortal combat begin. Egler, exactly what I needed. Yarrow here. Hi all, really keen to see the pros and cons of autos running PPC. So I think manual versus, and we kind of covered that. Saibi says, good afternoon. Definitely very useful conversation. Thank you. Andrew says, hi everyone. I have a question up front. When should the seller switch to an automation? Is it based on the number of ASINs, products, collections, maybe a certain amount of revenue? Stay safe. Thank you. I tell you what we do when with our agency, we start at a certain level. So we take on clients doing 1 million plus a year, spending $10,000 or more a month. Depending on what size they're at, I would advise them to either go and use software or put the leads out or the inquiries out to other agencies that work with people at different thresholds. So really it comes down to how much work is there. But I always say, learn the ropes yourself first, move to software, move to agents, move to consult, move to agency, and then just work your way up from there. Kevin?
Yeah, so I would definitely agree with that. I would say you should definitely be an expert in, PPC by hand. I would say to be the best user of software because you know what's going on under the hood, you know how to guide it, you know how to direct it. But the other thing that I was going to say is, we don't turn on any clients. Obviously, we say anyone can join us, but the people who are the products and campaigns that are their best fit are the campaigns that are generating at least one conversion a day, if not 10 conversions a day. Again, software is ultimately all about chasing the data. And if you have no data about, which keywords are selling, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. If you're generating one conversion a week, that product is not necessarily the best for software. Doesn't mean you can't use software, but I just say you need at least one conversion a day for the software to start picking up on, doubling down on what's working and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you've got to reach statistical significance, and it's going to take too long to get there. So you need some level of velocity. Wellington says, "Good morning, guys. What are the benefits these softwares offer to a new seller?" So, Kevin, do you want to pitch in on that one?
Yeah. Right off the bat, I think that there's almost an educational piece in the sense that the best practices are built into the software, right? So rather than needing to go and read a bunch of PDFs, watch some YouTube tutorials, to learn the best practices. It's built into the software. I think the main thing is for a new seller, when you launch something like Perpetua, study what Perpetua is doing under the hood. So you almost learn the best practices by design. And I would say, it'll make your life easier, obviously, and improve your performance. But the main benefits are, I would say, it helps you learn the best practices as quick as possible.
Cool. What else should we cover here? Is there anything else you want to speak about? Hold on, what's up in here? Hi, Kevin. For new sellers on Amazon, is it possible to feed in Google Ad PPC data to Perpetua?
So there are interesting terms and services as well about sharing data between platforms. What I can say is that Amazon actually announced there's an attribution beta, which I think you guys might be familiar with, which allows optimization of Google, which allows you to report conversion data for Google ads. So Perpetua is working on that. Amazon announced us as one of the official partners for the attribution beta. So I don't know if that was your question, if it was optimizing Google ads. So that's something that we are working on right now. We're one of the official partners. If you're talking about feeding Google data into Amazon, that's something that, again, when you sign up with Perpetua, that's something we can help you out with.
Cool. So who here is using brand analytics data on a regular basis as part of optimizing their campaigns? Dan will jump at once. Yanela?
I think everyone is.
Yeah, you're all doing it. That's cool. I know that we're going to give you a bit of a plug, Lazar. You've got a bulk file thing coming up soon. Do you want to explain what that's about?
Yeah, we're about to create a webinar. It's going to be in around 1 month. I'm just about to determine the date. It's going to be fully on bulk files. So you're going to be able to learn everything from scratch. It's literally bulk files 101, becoming a master of bulk files in around 1 hour.
Okay.
So feel free to check the website and join the webinar. It's completely free.
Sounds good. Yelena, sorry, go on. You was going to say?
No, go for it.
Yelena, what are you working on at the moment? What's been exciting you in terms of new testing and stuff you've been doing?
We haven't been as much focused on automation and tools lately, just navigating through the whole situation, making sure that our clients are safe, in the safe zone in terms of taking care of all the things that they need support in, specifically with inventory management and how it connects with PPC, launching new products. A lot of them are deciding to launch new products, something outside of their current category. They're exploring new terrains, expanding to new markets. So it's more or less business as usual, but with the whole new economic landscape in place that we are having right now. And that's the kind of where our focus right now is, making sure that Q4 is as successful as it can be, especially since retail has taken such a big hit this year that all that demand is now moved into e-commerce with focus on Amazon. So that's the kind of where we're at right now.
Cool. Kevin, what's the new bits in the pipeline for you guys?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is we're long that you need to be like, we're long full funnel advertising, meaning, if you're not taking advantage of every single ad unit that's out there, you're falling behind someone who is. And so big focus for us is sponsor brands video, sponsor display, and the DSP in particular. So a big, like everyone in the market's super aggressive on sponsored products. Not a lot of people are super aggressive on everything else. And we really believe that, 3 years from now, it's going to be like sponsored products today, where like you have to be totally activated on everything else. And so we're super focused on building best-in-class software for those ad units. And with video, for example, like, Lena mentioned, like a big bottleneck for people is actually having creative. And so, we tried to solve that problem with the tool that we built. So yeah, we're very much like, you need to be doing everything you can to win. And so full funnel advertising is a big focus for us. And I would say the other side of it is, focusing on higher order optimization tactics around, profit, organic rank, share of voice, these types of things, to start to make our software maybe less one size fits all, if you will, and start to productize a lot of those unique use cases. One small thing I just wanted to mention from the comment about, what are the pros and cons of using software? And one just comment that I wanted to make was, if I was being totally transparent and honest with you, I would say that the most sophisticated PPC managers out there are doing a slightly better job than Perpetua is today. And there's always a customer who's out there who's ahead of what our software can deliver today. And so for me as head of product that's determining our roadmap and the features that we're building, I'm always working with one or two sellers who are part of my VIP design program who they're doing something cool, right? They're looking at maybe, what's the difference between, should you own both spots or all three for this volume, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of very interesting nuanced cases where I'm always working with one or two of those sellers and building software around their use cases, but there's always going to be a PPC manager out there that's ahead of the software. What I'm trying to get at with that is, I think for anyone who's using software today and is not getting, is ahead of the software, you should demand more from your product teams. And that's one of the promises I kind of make with Perpetua is you should be, don't buy the fact that software is perfect. It's not. You're probably onto something. Work with the engineers, work with the product managers at your company to try to make the software better. Because like we all discussed, it's all going to be totally different, 5 years from now. So that's the one other thing I just want to mention is just humans are often ahead of the software. And if anything, the software is just learning from them. And we're building the software around what they're doing and sharing the best practices. Yeah.
No, it makes it. We talked about earlier on where you're behind, and then when you are able to catch up, then you go forward. But then you always play this zigzag to get to those points. We're dropping a free tool next week. We're just launching a new Data Brill site. This is a free tool for the industry. So it's for people, more for smaller sellers. So they're able to optimize their search term reports and know what they're dealing with. I'll do a big announcement next week for that. But again, that's just a freebie. We're not entering the space. It's just something we want to give back to the community. Also, as well, don't forget, if you haven't already, go to sellerpoll.com, which is brought to you by Forasio, 9 categories. Voting is already started as of last week. I'll do the leaderboard announcement as of next week. So every 2 weeks, we'll run a leaderboard and I'll give you the current positions and the former positions so you can see people moving up and down in terms of the voting. So a lot of people seem to enjoy that. Yelena, how does people reach you?
Yelena at amazoniappc.com.
Excellent. Lazar.
sellersalley.com and office at sellersalley.com and our social media networks like Facebook or LinkedIn.
Okay, and your good self, how do they reach you?
Perpetua.io, or you can email me at kevin@draper.ai.
Sounds good. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Tomorrow, we've got Casey Goss coming in. So we're going to do his in-depth part 2. There's a lot of stuff he couldn't talk about the first time round. So my plan is to learn more about what's been going on since the viral launch thing and going over to Thrasio. So that should be really good. Take care of yourself. Take care of your families. I'll be back here 4 p.m. BST. See you soon.